Welcome everyone. I'm here today with Rondi Atkin, my longtime student and disciple. We're going to have a fantastic conversation, and I invite you all to listen in. So welcome. Welcome everybody. Today I'm here with Rondi Atkin, my longtime Tai Chi student, friend. She's one of my disciples. She's just I've known her for a long time and really enjoy her company, and I think you're going to enjoy it too. So, without any further ado, welcome, Rondi.
Thank you.
So, some of the people my viewers will know you, but most of them won't. So, if you would you just give us just a little background on your Tai Chi beginnings?
Okay. Um, I began Tai Chi in the early 1980s. I was living in Chicago and I was living by Wrigley Field,
Mm.
and there was a kind of greasy spoon where many people in the neighborhood would eat, and you'd sit with different people and have conversations. And one of the people who came, it was called Chester's. Um, he was a guy I had the hots for. He was a Puerto Rican blues harmonica player named X-Ray Blue.
Whoa.
And one day, Ray said, "Well, you should come to my Tai Chi class sometime." So I had no idea what Tai Chi was. I'd never heard of it. I had not seen photos of people doing it in China.
Uh-huh.
But I would go anywhere, he said, "Oh, you should come sometime." So it's like, okay. A few weeks later, the class was held by the Belmont L station, and I was on my way to work. I was waiting tables at a restaurant in Rogers Park called the Heartland Cafe, and I had a few minutes before I had to take the train north, and I was right at where the school was, and I thought, oh, I'll pop in and just see what it's about. So it was on the second floor above a club. And the way the the door was set up, like you walked up the stairs, and when you looked through the door, all you saw was the front of the room, and you couldn't see the class. And all I saw was Elizabeth,
Mm.
my first teacher, Elizabeth Wenscott, who seemed to be floating in air, directed by her mind. And I said, I want that.
Uh-huh.
So, as it happened, she was also waiting tables at a Japanese restaurant to supplement her teaching income. And a day or two later, I stopped in and I said, I want to start studying Tai Chi. And she said, I teach Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night at 6 o'clock. And I went, fine. And as it happens, this restaurant I had been teaching at, I had been working at, I had just started, and I was getting all the garbage shifts, like the ones that no one else wanted. But I had just gotten this permanent schedule of Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night.
Uh-huh.
So after I talked to Elizabeth, I said to my manager, I don't care what shifts I work, I cannot work Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night.
Wow.
And that was it. And I was just persevering and going to class. Then, as now, I have terrible kinesthetic memory. It took me at least 4 times longer to learn the form than other classmates.
How long was class? How long were those classes?
I think they were like a little over an hour or an hour and a half, or maybe just an hour. But most students came 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too about Saturday night class at 6 o'clock, but in Chicago, the bars are open late, and the clubs are open late, so people didn't typically go out in Chicago until 10 or 11 at night.
So a
6
6
o'clock class is no
no
problem.
big deal, yeah.
um,
Whereas in Minnesota, that would be a dead class.
yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
for sure. So, but the nice thing is that my being slow did not hold back anyone else in the class. So I could just go and muddle along. But I just kept going and doing it and doing it. And as you know, I am nothing if not persevering. So that was my beginning until I moved to Minneapolis in 1999 to go to graduate school. Well, actually, I went to, because I'm from Minneapolis, to be closer to my parents who were getting old, and I thought that I should be here to help them in their dotage. And I thought, well, I didn't want to get old as a waitress, so I thought I'd go to graduate school. And I figured when I was done with graduate school, I would start checking out new Tai Chi schools. And should I just go into the next question?
Well, I'd like to flesh out a little bit more about.
Okay.
You learned with Elizabeth Wenscott.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about her and her lineage, because I know there's a connection, and my audience would love to know it.
Talking about Elizabeth is going to make me cry. Like, do you remember when I first came to your school
Yep.
and I was crying?
Yep.
Because I never thought I would be teaching with another teacher.
Right.
I loved Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And, she's kind of like your first cousin
Yeah.
in lineage and in skill.
Yeah.
She was a natural. And not that she didn't work excruciatingly hard,
Right.
but she got it.
Yep.
And in fact, oh, here they are. I don't know if we can show this to the viewing audience.
Okay, let's try my my skills here. There you go.
So that's Elizabeth and Master Shu and me. And it's the day I got my tutor sash at our school. To be a tutor or a teacher, you got this official red sash, and we wore white jackets instead of blue jackets.
And Master Shu was a student of
Cheng Man Ching.
same
and
as my
a classmate. Well, yeah, so that, even though you want me to flesh out my lineage, so the first day, well, I'll wait for that story. Yeah, you told me that Master Shu and Master Leon were classmates.
And practice partners, and there's lots of photos of them together.
That did a lot to allay the pain of working with a different school and a different teacher.
I get it.
But I learned, we did sword form. We did, and I don't know the name of this form anymore. It's a fighting form. But, and yeah, I mean, we did pushing hands. I love this form that we did. It's a little bit different than Cheng Man Ching's form, because so Master Shu did study with Cheng Man Ching, and then he went on to study with someone else, and the form I learned was more martial. And I never actually liked Cheng Man Ching's form as much, or the form we did at our school. And I was trying to figure out why. Those are my books. The form that we learned from Master Leon, it's like straight, the back is straight, but in the form I learned with Master Shu, like with Elizabeth, there's more of an angle. And I always felt that Cheng Man Ching's form was boxy, comparatively. It was more up and down, where this had this sort of angular grace to it. So
one time I had a teacher, when I demonstrated the straight spine, he actually said, "Why you're leaning back?"
Yeah, it almost looks like that. So one of the things, I don't think we need to see them, but I brought the books to show the difference.
Yeah, that's not going to translate too well on the
on the screen. But I loved So yeah, after I finished graduate school, um, I thought, okay, I'll start looking for a school.
Mm.
And I was at a party a couple weeks after I graduated, and I heard these guys talking about their Tai Chi school. So my ears perked up, and I asked them some questions. It was Don and Marcos,
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
um,
Yep.
and I asked them some questions about the school, and I Googled it, and I was there. That was a Saturday night.
Uh-huh.
I was there Monday for the day class, and I was crying. And I don't know if I talked to you before class started, but I know you came up to me during the break.
Uh-huh.
And it was clear that I had studied Tai Chi before.
Yeah.
Um,
That's hard to hide.
so, and then I told you who I'd studied with, and then you showed me photo of Master Shu and Master Leon.
Yep.
And
I
it
had
was
on the
like,
wall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I'm home. And I didn't even have to look for any other school. I mean, I loved it, you and the ethos of the school. Like, I knew this was the place for me. So that was like 2004.
Mm-hmm. So, had you learned the sword with Elizabeth? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did learn the sword.
And,
Don Dewey. That's the name of the fighting form.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a Shaolin form.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned that many years ago. So then, did you take any of the seminars with Master Choi when he came out?
No,
You hadn't seen him.
no,
And had Master Leon come to the school then, or was he
no,
already?
he was already
Okay,
gone.
he's already out east.
Yeah. And I actually had heard of Master Choi in Chicago.
Oh, I bet.
I had a practice partner who was a student of Master Shu, who I'd met when they had like a big a joint pushing hand seminar. And so he became my pushing hand partner, and he heard of Master Choi and asked me if I wanted to check out classes with him. But Elizabeth nor Master Shu encouraged students to study with other teachers.
Right.
And Master Shu did not speak very much English. I don't think my partner Paul really had much of a relationship with Master Shu, a personal relationship. But there was no way I was going to ask Elizabeth to teach with someone else, and I couldn't go behind her back. So,
No, that's respectful.
yeah, that's just who I am.
Yeah, no. Now some teachers don't care.
Yeah,
Some teachers care.
encourage it.
Some
yeah.
encourage it. You know, you just got to know the lay of the land. Now, did I tell you I met Master Shu in Boston?
No, I don't think you ever told me that.
So he came out to visit Master Leon. This was in 1978 or something.
That early?
Yeah. And I remember seeing him because he had like a brush cut.
Right.
He had a brush cut hairdo, and he was just sitting there, and he was a lot younger than Master Leon. I was always surprised at, the age difference. But my classmate told me that the night before Master Shu came into their class, and they were doing some demonstration, and Master Shu asked the student to kick him. And the way he described it is that when he kicked at him, he blocked, and he locked his leg, and he did like leg chana on his kick.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, that guy really knows his stuff. So I had, when you had told me about him, I had, had a little bit of a connection there.
Right.
So, yeah, and you studied at the old school, which was a nonprofit, and you actually not only did you study, you assisted, and then you actually served on the board.
Yeah.
And went through all the chairs and was the board president.
Right.
And
I started the fundraiser.
Yep, started the fundraiser and got things going, and I mean that was incredible. It was all a lot of hard work, which I appreciate.
Well, I love the studio. Like to me, it was its own entity.
Yep. Yep. It definitely, it had a life of its own, and
Yeah, it was almost apart from Tai Chi.
yeah,
It was another aspect of it.
yeah,
This
definitely a lot of
community.
people were getting more than Tai Chi there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and no matter who you learned from, do you have a favorite form? Do you have something you really like to do? Or I know it's like asking, your favorite kid or whatever, but
You know, honestly, I love the Tai Chi form, and I love whatever form I'm doing.
wow.
I love the form you're teaching us now.
Hmm. So, so what's your daily practice like?
Okay, it took me a long time to prepare for this question because my daily practice has been a thorn in my side for
Ah.
most of my Tai Chi career, but especially these past few years when I've gotten busier and busier
Mm.
with teaching. Plus, as you know, I've always had, well, not only is teaching demanding, but first I was taking care of my parents, and then now I'm active at my synagogue, and so I have, and these are all important things in my life besides Tai Chi, but one of the reasons it took me so long to apply for discipleship is because I never believed my practice was worthy of being a disciple. I always thought to be a disciple, I have to bring my practice up way more than it is. And in fact, even when you said you were going to interview me or asked if you could, it's like, okay, I better get my practice going so that when he asks me, I can say, oh yes, this is my practice. um, these days, if I get the foreman,
Hmm.
I'm like 1,000 miles ahead of the game.
Hmm.
But here's the one thing I realized. And once I realized this, and this again was in preparation for this question, um, is that to some degree, just doing the form satisfies the main reason I do Tai Chi. Um, as you know, with 4 planets in Aries, I definitely have a martial aspect. But I don't do it because I love martial arts.
Right.
If I didn't do Tai Chi, I wouldn't be looking for any other martial art. And if I were to do something martial, I'd probably want to learn how to box.
That's very martial.
It is, because I
Very
am
Marsies.
really martial,
Yep.
um, but and it's not like I don't love the martial aspect and I love the weapons. I mean, I love it all.
Hmm.
But my main reason for doing it is how it makes me feel,
Mm.
how it puts me in my body.
Mm.
That is worth everything to me. If I didn't have anything martial, just the fact that it made me understand how to live and move in my body and how to be in the world, that's, for me, the greatest gift of
Mm.
Tai Chi. The martial part is like another good aspect,
Yeah.
but it's not for me the driving force. So to do the form every day
Mm.
pretty much does what I need from Tai Chi. Not that doing more wouldn't give me more,
Right.
but
It's like one thing that Paul Gallagher, the late Paul Gallagher, first time I've said that in public, is that he said one of the benefits of Tai Chi is just the pure joy of the movement. Just
yeah,
doing them, just moving in that slow, deliberate, casual, channeling gravity. The movements are beautiful.
that's it.
It's amazing.
And I hear you talk with Julie or with Fred, and like they love the martial aspect. Fred's like all over it. And it's, yeah, for me, it's like, well, that's interesting. And when I have more time, I love spending more time on that. And in the summer, when I can do weapons outside, then I do try to practice weapons at least a few days a week on my own.
And asking somebody about their personal practice? It's a loaded question, yeah, because then you want to find out, how deeply or what do you do or do you
Right.
practice daily? Um, but it's some of the masters I studied with would never tell you their practice. The famous drummer Buddy Rich.
Yeah.
He had his secret practice. He wouldn't tell anybody about because is what gave him an edge. And what his practice was is he used to practice all the drum strokes on a pillow that had no bounce. So it really developed his grip for when he played on the drum that had the bounce. A lot of the masters wouldn't tell you their daily practice because you'd be like going, wow, that's. Um, and then when you did get a teacher that would tell you their daily practice, or more importantly, show you their daily practice, um, there's a rhyme and a reason to why you practice certain things in a certain order. One thing is a certain kind of practices you do daily, every other day, weekly, monthly. Certain practices you do in seasons, like we're all in Minnesota. We're waiting for it to thaw so we can do all our weapons outside with wild abandon. Um, One thing I got from Master Choi, which was interesting, is he said, whatever your current schedule, like those forms, the new forms, he said, don't practice those in your personal practice. Practice the ones you're not teaching. So say, for instance, now I'm teaching Tai Chi Saber. He would say, don't practice Tai Chi Saber in your private practice. Practice the sword and the spear and everything else.
And why is that?
Well, you are going to get your teaching, you're going to get your practice in the teaching, and then the ones that aren't getting taught will be neglected.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I usually do that, like whatever, I do the solo form every day, and I teach the solo form, so that's that.
Yeah.
But it's
I
more
think
like
that gets a pass.
other styles and other aspects of different styles. I don't, in my personal practice what I'm teaching. Now, leading up to it, so say Tai Chi Saber, I made sure I did a lot of extra reps in Tai Chi Saber leading up to when that came into the curriculum. But then now I don't do that. Now I do more. Right now I'm doing lots of reps on Tai Chi Sword because you see we're not breaking that down in class.
Right.
And it's just it's just a good way to figure out, what do you do? And some people are approaching retirement age, and what a great thing when you have all the free time in the world. You can start to construct your practice, and
Yeah.
we know what we're gonna do. If you got a day and you got nothing to do, again, Master Choi, he always used to say, "I'm never lonely because I have my art."
I feel that way. I mean, with Tai Chi, with my reading, my writing, I cook. I cook all the time. I have a pretty full life,
That is amazing.
and I need all those things to balance.
Yes.
But when I get busy, then of course things fall by the wayside.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, it's when you find that one form or those one or two things that you really like to do every day, if you like it, you'll do it. And then there's some things like, I really believe like you should stretch a little every day. Like a couple of stretches. You got to be stretching, and
Beyond the warm-ups?
Yeah. It's something. Warm-ups are good.
Like when we sit on the floor and
Yeah.
we do, because
Yep.
I do that whenever I do the warm-ups.
Yes, and you see those are ranges of motion you don't usually put your body in.
Right.
And so it's just that's part of
Of
keeping
course,
you young.
stretching, just in general. Oh man. See, I haven't stretched for a while. Today. I mean, well, since this morning.
Yep.
Yeah, stretching is good.
It is good.
But that's it. It's like that kind of awareness. I mean, knock on wood, we were talking earlier about our immune system. But, I mean, the other reason I do Tai Chi is not just about movement, but because it keeps me physically strong and healthy.
Yeah.
And for example, osteoporosis runs in my family. I'm kind of like the classic type, small boned, European, Ashkenazi. Like my grandmother had it, my mom and aunts had it, my cousins have it. I've lost like less than a quarter inch of my height. High blood pressure runs in my family. And even though mine's running a little high, it's
Yeah.
not so high that I need medication.
4 planets in Aries.
Right, exactly. It's not my fault.
It's not your fault.
And so, and I really believe in the energy stuff. I
Mm.
mean, that's part of what I got from working with Lance, my shaman dash therapist.
Yes.
But I really believe in the cultivation of energy and just even like moving your joints, like opening the refrigerator. I mean, I try to do more and more with my dantian or like vacuuming and shifting back and forth, or when I sweep, using my whole body.
Right, we were talking about that. People get up to this really heavy door and they try and pull with their arm, but if you pull with your whole body,
Yeah.
the world is quite accessible to even people who are elderly.
Right. Well, a few weeks, or one of those big snowstorms we got, and I had to shovel myself out. And it's like, oh man, I mean, it had drifted, the snow had drifted, so like I was doing something like this. And here's what was so amazing. Like I wasn't thinking Tai Chi or anything. It's just like, how am I going to shovel the snow out? And I get the shovel. And without even thinking, I used my whole body. And it was like nothing. It was like throwing cotton. And it was like, after I did it, it's like, wow.
So there's a line in the Tao Te Ching. It gets a bad rap, and it says, "Can you become like a small child?" Well, it's not asking you to become childish.
It's
Childlike.
like,
And if the younger the kids are, you'll see they use their whole body.
yeah, it's just natural. And as we grow older,
Yep. We start to isolate, and then once you
Yeah.
isolate, you overuse stuff, and
Right. Like, I'm at my computer a lot because of teaching, but it's like I sit like on a kind of dining room table like Michelle does, and I sit up, and I have my screen, I have a desktop, and so, I'm kind of like monitoring, and sometimes I sit cross-legged, but, I try to be mindful, I try to
You got that body awareness.
Yeah.
And then the Tai Chi helps you to check in and.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a corrective, like, because we all do get off kilter.
Absolutely.
We all have our tensions, and I mean, they're still in me. It's like every now and then, it's like, wow, I never knew I had that tension there. Does that still happen to you? Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
find,
Oh yeah.
like, now it's like, whoa.
Oh yeah. No, it sneaks up on you because you can become used to it. That's the.
Yeah, you get used to it.
The more you hang around relaxation, that becomes like the default, and the more you hang around tension, that you can get used to it, and then.
You don't even know it until it makes you sick.
Yeah, or something breaks. It'll definitely break. Well, now, so Rondi, you do have some extensive teaching experience. You teach in a variety of academic situations at college and writing and that. I'd really like to hear from you. What do you think are the pros and cons of teaching or learning Tai Chi on Zoom?
Well, sir, it was you who said Zoom is doom.
It was me.
Yeah. And I agree.
Yeah.
This is what has been so interesting for me to learn. This isn't just about teaching, but like at my synagogue, and we still do Zoom services, and a lot of people attend. And so you can see everyone's face,
Mm-hmm.
and you can even feel the spirit.
Mm.
But it is impossible to feel the energy.
Mm.
Because it's virtual. There's no way energy comes through virtually. So the fact that you can learn, that's good, but it doesn't have the energy, and that's why so many people who are still home on their computers are mentally breaking down.
Well, or the people that are, they're social media connected, but they're still lonely. They're
They're
not.
so lonely, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if I did say Zoom is doom, I must eat those words
No, you don't.
with a knife and fork.
Zoom is doom.
Uh,
It
you
doesn't
know,
mean you
it-
shouldn't continue.
I mean, I agree with you. If it
Teaching.
was the only, way, because there's so many aspects we get in
Right.
person, the in-person class, and
Right.
I think that people who have a lot of in-person class experience, they go to Zoom. It connects something there, but
I mean, I'm a pretty physical person, so I need contact. I need physical contact. I think most people really do. I don't think I'm special that way, but I think people have tend to compartmentalize that part of their lives easier than I was ever able to.
I never realized to the degree of intuitive, peripheral, psychic, whatever you want to call it, learning and practicing that goes on in class when we're together, where we just kind of intuitively, we're feeling each other, we're following each other.
Yeah.
You're not really looking, whereas with Zoom, yeah, you have to really look,
Right.
and the
It's
eye is dominant.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it does what it can do.
Yep.
So I won't fault it for that, but it's not going to replace in-person teaching ever.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you've had that experience, we know what we're missing.
Right. I mean, that's sort of the sadness is that, and I'm not just talking about Tai Chi, but people don't even know what they're missing. They're so divorced from what it means to be kinesthetic in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. We're social creatures.
We are social creatures. Everyone's going, I'm an introvert.
And well, there's so much that of body language, and also we pick up so many other clues
Yeah.
that the 2D and the screen will not allow to come through.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's virtual and not real.
Yeah. Yeah. I do believe that a hybrid, reaching people, but then also checking in person. I think a hybrid is the way to go. I love the in-person classes, but then there's a few weeks ago we had that snowstorm, and we had to cancel class in person, but then we zoomed up,
Yeah.
and that was really fun.
When I've been really busy, and of course now I teach Wednesday night, but when I wasn't and I missed a class, and it was nice to zoom in on Wednesday night, and
Yep.
at least pick up. I didn't always do the whole class, but if I missed a new move, then I could learn it. So
Yep.
that was convenient. Yeah, I mean, you can't fault it for its convenience.
No. It's like any other tool,
It's,
A
yeah,
hammer's really good when you're roofing and stuff, but
Yeah.
don't take the hammer in the shower.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, I mean, you got to know its limitation, you got to know its use, and
Right.
and and we've spoken many times about the craft of teaching and learning, and I was well, and I heard from a lot of people that during the lockdown, and they hated Zoom, and Zoom is doom, but once I really got my feet wet, it became another piece. That's how I look at it. Is it all
Yeah.
my teaching? No, but
Yeah, it is another piece.
It's like another
and I've
facet.
had to learn to accept that.
yeah. And again, and this is on you. If you're going to learn from Zoom, you have to have that piece in your. It's much easier in person to learn, and you'll have to figure out also. I think we have to figure out how to present, and other people have to figure out how to absorb.
Right. And the other thing for me is I am a kind of hands-on teacher. I do put my hands on my students. In
Yeah.
fact, one of the things that's been really hard about teaching at the prison is that there can be no physical contact.
Right.
So like even when you sometimes casually
Right.
do that, it's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
But
can't.
when I was teaching Tai Chi, I would also put my hands on my students to sort of correct their postures. So obviously one can't do that on Zoom.
Well, yeah. You know, Master Leong always did the five senses. So you'd be doing the form, you could see him. He would either say the names or count out the posture or do description so you could hear him.
Huh.
He'd come over and he'd correct your arm. You could feel him. He'd always light incense in the school. You smelled it. And he had a big fish bowl full of butterscotch candies. And to this day, if I have a butterscotch candy, I'm
Wow.
immediately transported to class.
Wow.
So he kept all five of the senses.
Wow, I love that idea.
It was
I've never
amazing.
heard that before.
Yeah. Well, Rondi, I'm gonna take a fork in the road, and I'm gonna leave Taiji for a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you one of my favorite questions, and the reason it's one of my favorites is it's one I wished I had asked Master Leon. I'm really glad of all the people I have asked it of because the answers have been truly incredible. I won't say life-changing, but eye-opening to the people I asked this question of. So here's my question to you, Rondi. What is your happiest memory?
So I knew this was coming, and I was racking my brain. I don't have a happiest memory. I remember Julie saying that her wedding was, which is a great answer.
Yep.
But I've been married twice, and they were both great weddings. So,
Well, I could let you have two. You could have three.
however, I think I've had 10,000 happiest memories. And I started thinking about all the times I've just been so elated. For example, I had a boyfriend in Chicago. He was a bicycle messenger, and he taught me how to navigate downtown traffic, like in the loop. And for kicks, like we would race buses down Michigan Avenue, or we would just race along the lake. Anytime I want to fly, I get on my bicycle. Like, you know, people go, oh, I went skydiving. It's like, I just get on my bicycle.
Wow.
Or when I went to Ireland, and I walked the land, so I hitchhiked to Galway, and it was all through Connemara.
Ooh.
And
The stone, the marble, and
I mean, you know, it's a whole different kind of area than the rest of Ireland. You know, it's brown and boggy, and but walking those hills, I was like in heaven. And of course, some of it was really hard because walking, but just elated. Dancing just puts me into another zone. Not last summer, but the summer before, when we first got our vaccines, and we thought that the vaccines were going to save us from getting COVID. But I went to a concert at the Cedar Cultural Center on Cedar on the West Bank, my favorite venue for hearing music. And there was like this guy from New Orleans. He was a rhythm and blues kind of band, and he was a real performer, you know, really drew the crowd in. I danced my ass off from the very beginning to the very end.
wow.
And I thought I had died and gone to heaven.
Uh-huh.
I mean, or any, especially concerts in Chicago at Grant Park, like these huge concerts. And those are the things that thrill me. You know, times with friends, or even sometimes reading and writing. I'm just so deeply happy that it's like, okay, I'm done. So that's my answer.
Well, that's a fantastic answer. I love it.
And you know, I had a happy childhood. I had like parents who loved me, and well, my parents knew how to have a good time.
Oh.
I had the best parents.
Well, tell me a little more about your parents.
They were warm and loving. They were balanced and reasonable. They didn't act out to any like
Mhm.
big degree. Obviously, we all, but and as as it's sometimes said, like they weren't rocket scientists, but they were smart enough,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew how to enjoy themselves,
Mm.
and they made everything fun.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it really was like cooking with my mom, or doing the dishes afterwards, or taking trips with my dad. It was, they just always knew how to enjoy themselves. I was really blessed.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It was my mom's yard site the other day.
Yeah.
She'll be dead, let's see, 9 years.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's so to hear. I mean, obviously, I've never met your parents. I don't even know what they look like. But in my mind's eye, I'm like, I just got this amazing vision of like really happy people, and you, and it was
Really
like reflected
warm.
off of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is so. See, I mean, yeah. My question is kind of a hokey question. What's your favorite memory? And yet, that just came out. I mean, that's beautiful. Thank you. Now I have my other crazy question.
Okay.
Do you know? And you know it's coming. Okay, Rondi, you have your magic crystal ball, and you look in that crystal ball. Tell us what you see.
You know, it's funny. This is the one question I did not prepare an answer for.
Ooh.
Um, but as you know, I am just about ready to retire.
Okay.
And I know that what I really want to do is just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, except I won't have to spend the majority of my life teaching students how to write.
Mm.
So I'll just be able to slow down, read more, write more, do more Tai Chi. Um, that's all I want to do. I just want to like take walks and just have more time to live.
Mm. That's wonderful.
And I mean, I'm going to be 71 on Monday.
Life begins at 71.
Well, maybe. Um, but I mean, this I think happens at different ages for different people. But I am aware that I'm at the end of my life.
Mm.
I mean, no matter how great I feel,
Right.
and I do feel, and I couldn't. In some ways, I think I feel as good as I did when I was 30. So I have no complaints.
Yep.
But that thing, you're only as old as you feel.
Right.
You know, no matter how good I feel, I've got what, 18, 20 years left. I mean, I don't need to live till I'm 100. My parents both died at 88.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could die tomorrow, of course.
Yep. Yep. No
But,
guarantee.
you know, kind of assuming average life expectancy, like that's enough for me. I don't need more than that. But
Right.
this is the last stretch. So that kind of brings a different consciousness to one as
Yes.
well. You know, I didn't think about that as much like 8 years ago.
Right. I always think of the four seasons, and I'm always acutely aware of, am I in my spring, my summer, my fall, or my winter? And
Right.
there's an old Irish proverb or saying, which is that the wise person does not wish to become young again.
Yeah. I mean, the perspective that one gains by getting old. I mean, wow, just think how much more you see and know now.
Yeah.
I mean, if one's goal is self-awareness, then one wants to get old.
Well, and as we've studied, the Eastern religions and styles and thought. I mean, there's still a veneration for the elderly, and if you're in a society that the elderly are just kind of used up and a pain in the neck and stuff,
Right.
then no one really wants to become older.
Yeah.
But I heard that in Okinawa, which has some of the most active, elderly, 100-year-old people. The thing is that when you have a party, you invite the oldest people first, and so it's like, wow, you want to become old because you're going to get invited to all the parties. Like in Confucian, the Confucian way, it's always the eldest gets to speak first. Whereas it happens where you're like, I don't want to listen to you. You're old. Whereas the Confucian way, it's like, no, these people have crossed more bridges than other people have crossed streets, and they've got that wisdom. And so you'd want to be old, so you'd want to be able to be heard. I mean, I'll tell you my secret. I'm not going to tell anybody else my secret.
Okay.
I'm telling you my
Okay.
secret. One thing I figured out early on with some of these masters, the martial art masters, spiritual masters, is they spent a lifetime gaining all this knowledge, experience, which makes wisdom. Really, they want to share it. They don't want to keep it. They want to share it, and they want to know that you appreciate it. And if you show them that you appreciate it, my masters and my teachers have been so generous, and I think that's because the thing I did is I appreciate. Hey, you really worked hard, and
Yeah.
you know
You're a great student.
I love to learn. I mean, well, and so this last question is amazing to learn from my various guests on my podcast, because the answer to what you see in the crystal ball is so varied and wonderful, and I love everybody's answer. They're all different. One of the ones that just tickled me pink, I'm gonna say it. One of the answers that I absolutely loved was Sensei Jeff from Greenfield, where he said, "I'm looking at my crystal ball and I see that I'm going to be adding Bagua to my teaching curriculum," and I was like, "Yes!" I don't know. That one just really, I love everybody's answer, and that one just really turned me on. I loved it, and it was like, wow.
Because of its specificity.
It was so him.
And-
It was so honest. It was so in the movement, and that was his future. And and he has a family, lovely wife, and lovely
Right.
kids, and
Other answers are they're broader, more esoteric.
yeah, and some answers were really profound, or not
Right.
that his isn't profound, or some were very personal.
It really isn't that profound. It's really.
But it was so, it just,
But yeah, that's not to say
oh
it
my God,
wasn't.
it was one of those answers that just floated my boat.
Right.
So that's why
Interesting.
I'm really loving doing these interviews, and I want to thank you. This has been,
Well, I
it's
was
so much fun.
honored when you asked me, so
Oh,
thank you.
no, the honor is mine, and I think I think one is not enough. So would you do another one?
Oh, sure.
And I think what I'm going to do is not send you any questions in advance.
Okay.
So
Put me
thank
in
you.
the hot seat.
Yeah,
Thank you,
real
sir.
hot seat. Hey, and thank you for all the subscribers. As of this podcast, I've got 703 subscribers. I'm so happy. I'm over the moon. Last June or July, I had 278. So
Wow.
I'm on my way. I'm trying to get to 1,000, and I'm hoping that I can spread this the Taiji message, and these kind of these interviews with all these wonderful, interesting people. I hope you enjoyed Rondi's answers, her grilling. I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate all the subscriptions, and really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.